In politics, defeat is supposed to be final. That appeared to have been the case with President Goodluck Jonathan. But sometimes it isn't. This also appears to be the case with President Goodluck Jonathan. In Nigeria today, a familiar name is quietly returning to the center of power conversations. The name Goodluck Jonathan, a former president, a symbol of concession. The man many believed had exited the stage permanently, but now amid economic pressure, political fragmentation, and rising uncertainty, the question is no longer if he could run, but whether he could actually win the election. And more importantly, what his return would do to the balance of power in Nigeria. Is this a comeback story or a political illusion? My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. This is the other side.
We have come here to present a letter of invitation to the former president for request. This is what comes from. We want him to say something. We want him to declare. Nigerians have asked us to plead with him to come to the rescue of our nation by declaring interest to contest for the presidency in 2027. The Nigerians are lamenting the current state of despair, homelessness, and disunity in the country. They see the ex-president as the only unifying force that can reverse the impending catastrophe looming over the country. Nigerians are asking him to declare now for the 2027 presidential contest. They are prepared and determined to come out in their millions to support and vote massively for Goodluck Jonathan.
Political comebacks do not happen in a vacuum. They are created by conditions, and Nigeria's current conditions are unusually fertile. Economic strain has reshaped political perception. Security concerns remain persistent and worsening. And across the political stage and space, something critical has happened. Fragmentation. No single opposition figure has fully consolidated national momentum. No clear alternative has emerged with overwhelming consensus. And in moments like this, political systems do something predictable. They look backward, not out of nostalgia alone, but out of calculation. Jonathan represents something rare in Nigeria's politics, a former leader who left power without violence, without constitutional crisis, and without institutional collapse. And that memory is now becoming political currency. To understand Jonathan's chances, you must also understand his trajectory. In 2011, he built a broad coalition powered by incumbency, momentum, and elite alignment on the need to transform Nigeria and change the Nigerian story. But by 2015, that coalition had fractured. What changed? Not just voters, but structure. Elite consensus broke down. Opposition forces unified. And most critically, the narrative shifted from continuity to change. That shift remains one of Nigeria's most powerful forces in electoral politics. And today the question is reversed. Has the system moved from change back to restoration? If it has, Jonathan has become viable. If it hasn't, he remains symbolic. Jonathan's strength lies in perception and reality too, not power, perception. First, he carries what analysts call the nostalgia advantage. In periods of hardship, voters reassess the past more kindly. The moment of stability, even if imperfect, gains value. Furthermore, in the case of President Goodluck Jonathan, people look back to the fact that the roads were safe. The prices of petroleum products was lower. The Nigerian naira had value. People could buy a bag of rice for as little as 80,000 naira. This, of course, has changed. Secondly, Jonathan is seen as a low-conflict candidate. In a polarized political environment, that matters. He does not trigger the same intensity of opposition as a more combative figure. And in the case of President Goodluck Jonathan, today his candidature will fulfill the demand for the South to even up with the North in the number of years that the North or the South has been in power. The cry for many people has been power should remain in the South. And so for President Goodluck Jonathan, if he wins the election or decides to contest the election, power will still remain in the South if he's voted for. On the other hand, for the people in the North who may be conceding to the fact that the South should complete its 8 years before power goes to the North, President Goodluck Jonathan is constitutionally bound to only 4 years, one term. And so if President Goodluck Jonathan becomes president, for many analysts, power will still return to the North after 4 years. Third, he has broad acceptability potential, not dominance. He's unlikely going to be like the APC presidential candidate, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who will install a candidate after he leaves power. Jonathan is unlikely to have a candidate that he has to put in power to replace him. And so the field will be available for all manners of contestants to run for presidency. He has acceptability, and in fragmented elections, acceptability can be more powerful than popularity. Finally, his international profile. In an era where economic credibility matters, global perception can subtly reinforce domestic legitimacy. And for President Goodluck Jonathan, he already has the legitimacy. He created electoral reforms that led to his defeat. He conceded defeat, remained quiet, was involved in electoral monitoring around Africa, and does not look like one who will overturn the electoral reforms he did and create a structure of dominance, of power that does not want to move. These are not emotional advantages. But every comeback carries baggages, and Jonathan is significant. First, legacy. His administration faced serious criticisms on security, governance, and institutional control. These narratives have not disappeared. And of course, the ruling All Progressive Congress is waiting in the wings to bring up those allegations again. However, bringing up those allegations may not actually serve the All People's Congress, because since Jonathan left office, corruption perception about Nigeria have worsened. And of course, it is clear too that since Jonathan left office, security challenges have worsened. Many more people have been killed. Many more communities and swaths of land have been taken over by violent non-state actors than the time that Jonathan was in power. Second, elite fragmentation. Jonathan does not command a unified political machine. He will need to build one quickly, and he has only 7 months to do that. And in Nigerian politics, structure is everything. Third, the generational question. Nigeria's electorate is younger, more restless, more demanding, and there's a growing resistance to political recycling. Jonathan must answer a difficult question. Is he a solution or a return? And of course, when answered and analyzed, may work in favor of President Goodluck Jonathan. And not only is he younger than President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he is also younger than Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the two front runners in the 2027 elections. And fourth, strategic resistance, not ideological. Strategic. There are powerful actors who benefit more from a fragmented opposition than from a unified one, and they will act accordingly. They will do everything possible to deny President Goodluck Jonathan a platform to contest the election, or if he gets the platform, they will sow seeds of discord to ensure that he does not win the election. And how about the party system shockwaves? Jonathan's entry will not just be about him. It will reshape the entire political system. For the All Progressive Congress, his candidacy creates a paradox. If the opposition unifies behind him, he becomes a threat. If the opposition fractures around him, he becomes an advantage to them. Meaning that if the opposition feels Jonathan and another candidate, they are likely going to have the vote split, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may win the election because of the fragmentation of the opposition. Because multiple candidates divide votes. For the African Democratic Congress, the opportunity is different. Jonathan could transform a smaller platform into a national vehicle, but there's a risk. He could also dominate it without strengthening its long-term structure. So the real question is not just whether Jonathan runs or not. It is who aligns with him and who refuses to align with him. Of course, for this, there are 4 realistic scenarios. The first one, unified opposition. Jonathan becomes the consensus candidate. Coalition aligns, votes consolidate. And of course, the outcome will be a potential victory in a competitive election. The probability for this is moderate. because there are so many egos among the opposition political parties. Persons who believe that this may be their last chance to contest election, such as the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, or the young Turks that seek to be in power and think that it is their right to be in power now. The second scenario, fragmented opposition. Multiple candidates enter the race, vote splits, momentum dissipates, and this probability might be very high. The incumbent, as I said, takes the advantage and wins the election. The third scenario, key political blocs refuse alignment. Jonathan's reach becomes limited. While this may moderate chance, he has a strong showing but has insufficient support to win the elections. And the fourth scenario is economic pressure triggers a protest vote. Voters shift towards familiarity over uncertainty. This is low to moderate. Your guess is as good as mine. And so, what is Jonathan in 2027? A frontrunner, a spoiler, or a symbol? The question is more precise than that. He is a conditional contender. His probability of victory does not depend on popularity alone, but on alignment. Estimated probability of winning is between 25 to 40, depending largely on coalition unity. And that brings us to the single most decisive factor, not voters, not even policy, but elite coordination. If the opposition unites, Jonathan becomes viable. If it does not, he becomes a footnote. Because in Nigeria, presidential election is not just about who runs, it is about who aligns and who doesn't. And so, the question to ask is Jonathan the comeback Nigeria needs or a return to the past? This is the other side. My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. Don't forget to hit on that subscribe button and to like our content. I have noticed that several of you usually go to my WhatsApp page to make comments or show your views about the videos that we post. It will be better for us if you remain on YouTube to make your comment or just click on that like button. That will help us with YouTube sharing our videos to people who have the same likes with you.